Sonia Barrett here once again. And today I am going to do, I guess we could look at it as a part two to the previous video that I did just a few days ago. This one will be the marketing of sickness and death. The previous one was the programming of sickness and death, or programmed for sickness and death. So I thought about it and I thought, I'd like to say just a little bit more about this, because there are people that are aware of this, and then there's the majority who are completely oblivious to this. People will perhaps mention the fact that they're noticing that, yes, well, maybe we're being marketed to by the pharmaceutical companies, as they'll see in commercials. But are people aware of the fact that not only is sickness marketed, but also your longevity is marketed? So death is marketed. And because everything is done in such a, to some degree, subtle way, and also because many things are part of normal reality for us, that it goes unnoticed. But of course, I notice. And I think I've noticed from from the minute I got here on the planet, there are things that I have just noticed. And so this is a very big one. The fact that sickness is marketed, and sickness is a trend, as I mentioned before. The different diseases can become a trend because of how our brains work, how our minds work, how the collective tends to look for patterns, just as our brain looks for patterns in behavior, just patterns in our overall environment, things that appear to be normal, that those all are patterns, and the brain looks for patterns all the time. And you consciously and unconsciously also look for patterns. And patterns are simple, can be simple things like your behavior, your habit, things that are habitual for you, things that you say, it's just the way I am, and you function that way. So it is with everything else, because that's how it's all seemed to be set up for us as human beings. We form these habitual behaviors that become our normal. Genetically, it's all in our DNA at this point, in terms of certain behaviors and certain things that we accept as a finality of the human experience. Things that we, as a society, and I think just across the board, have come to accept as the way it is, a normal way of operating as human beings, a normal part of what the body does, or what the body is expected to do. And so it becomes very easy for us to be marketed to, on any particular, anything at all can be marketed. But these are things that we don't look at. That death is marketed to us, and sickness, more importantly, that death is marketed to us. Now, I am fascinated by the commercials that we see, that always seem to give us a timeline of, if you're between these ages, if you're between the age of 50 and 85, if you're between the age of, I don't even think I don't know if they do 40. I know they always say like 50 or 55, but the cutoff is always 85. They never go past 85. They don't say if you're between 40 and 100 or 120. That plays a role in our minds, and we need to understand this. We need to be conscious of this. We need to be really aware of this as to why this is important. Because our society operates based on suggestions, based on, again, things that have become acceptable and as normal. And yes, our body responds to this because our minds are already set in that acceptance then of behavior, of this is just the way it is. This is so very important for us to not just say, yeah, I understand, but what do you do about it within your own self? How do you address this within yourself? And so when you see these ads, and it might not necessarily be those commercials alone, but everywhere around you is sold this idea of your lifespan, how long you should live, how long is acceptable for you to live. Now we do see, what do they call them, centennials, people that they'll show us that are, maybe 116 years old or so, a little over 100. But what we also need to realize is being over 100, do we have to look like we're falling apart? I mean, this is really, this is cutting edge for some people, because most people will say, well, I don't want to live that long because I don't want to, I don't want to look like that. I don't want to go through falling apart. That's a programming. Is that absolutely necessary? Bernardo Lopalo, who passed away last year, was probably one of the few people that I've seen that was over 100. He was 114. When I met him, he was 110, 111. And he really did his best to push the envelope in in superseding that, the expectations that have been set for us as to how he should behave and what he should look like. And he did the best he could in making that happen with the resources that he had, meaning the information that he had. What was so profound about this also is that his father told him that he could live for a very long time if he wanted to. And he hung on to that thought, that idea, that concept. And that was a very large part of why he was able to live as long as he did. Now, when he died, he didn't die of any diseases. His heart he got up one day. I mean, he didn't get up, but one day his heart just stopped. And that's a whole other, talk. And some of you are obviously exposed to my material, not just on YouTube, but like I've taken the workshops. We've talked about these things. We've dived into these concepts, these ideas. Why then would the body still shut off? But right now, all that I'm doing is just planting the seed there, the idea, just that kind of realization that life is sold to us. It's marketed to us. What we can be and what is possible is marketed to us. We are given boundaries in terms of what is possible for us as human beings. And we look to science to give us permission to push those boundaries. When science and religion say it's okay, then we may think about it, and then it's okay. But we're very permission-based. We are very permission-based beings. And again, this is why we are so easily marketed to or influenced and programmed, because we need permission. We need to know that it's okay. For whatever it is, we need to know that it's okay, because we don't want to be set apart from the rest. We don't want to be the only ones. We don't want to not be part of. We don't want to be pushed out of the group, whatever group that is, socially, or family, or our spiritual organization or religious organization, or whatever that means for the individual. But we don't want to be exiled. And so it's easier to go along with what looks like the norm without questioning it deeply. And so someone will say, well, I don't want to live that long. Why do we want to live that long? That very question becomes really interesting because of the belief systems that have been put in place in that person's mind, going on, this is going on generations, or I don't know, thousands of years, however long we've been living a particular interpretation of what reality can be and what we can be. And we need to understand this. Again, very important. Because you see, when you come on the planet, the only thing that you have, the only reference point that any of us have, is what reality looks like when we get here. We don't know what it was the day before. We don't know what it was 100 years ago, other than somebody's interpretation or recording of history. This is so very important. And so we don't know what we were before as human beings. And if you look at life now, you can see that transition happening because of technology, because of so much that is technology based. We can see right now with our very eyes a transition that is going on in our in the human race, specifically in our Western world, or in this current setting anyway, because it's across the board at this point. We can see a trend happening, what we would define then as evolution. We can see this transition happening. Now, if you're not here in 100 years, you won't know what we're like. You won't know what we've become, just as you don't know what we were 5,000 or 10,000 years ago, other than the information that archaeologists and historians are digging up, are finding, are providing us with. But we don't know. And this is what I find, again, fascinating. The children that are born today, the idea of a rotary phone, that you just dial, like when I was a kid, that's what we saw. The idea of that is completely foreign to that child now. What? It can't relate. A time that there was no cell phones. What? So many things. And so that reality, when they stepped in here, and all of these things were already here technologically, they have no reference point other than what we may tell them or pictures that they may see. And reality for them starts at that point and moves forward until they're no longer part of this human experience. This is so profoundly important. We discuss this in workshops in length, but I'm deciding I want to share that with you. I want to stir that memory, that understanding, and that memory, because there's an innate memory in us of what is possible. All of the history of what we have been and what we can be as human beings are all there. And so we need to just wake up to that realization and not simply wait for the approval of resources outside of us to tell us it's time that we do this or do that. It's all up to us. What we are right now, it is all up to us, as you can see. Again, the advancements with technology, all of what we are doing, all of what we are creating, you see how we're shaping the future. We're shaping our right now, but we are shaping the future, the changes that we'll make. What is our body structure like? If we keep bending over looking at our phones and our iPads, and we're changing. We just don't notice, but we're changing. We're changing because this is what we do all the time. We're looking down. We're looking down. We're looking down. I used to wonder what the kids are going to walk like in a few years. you know, from the pants so low and having to walk really wide to hold up the pants. All those things, this is how the brain works. Eventually, the brain sends that message because it gets the message from from you. And it takes that message that the body must adjust to accommodate the most minute change over time. Could be thousands of years, could be hundreds of years. Over time, that's what happens. The body is adjusted to accommodate the environment, to accommodate these changes that are happening. And we are none the wiser. We do not know. We have no idea. We don't see it because it is subtly happening. And that's how beliefs about oh so many things are encoded in us, and they become our truth. So I really want to bring that up for those who are interested. I suggest you share the video, and I'm so fascinated by social media. I post the videos anyway, but it's really fascinating. You post a picture of a cat or a dog, and there's millions of people that will see it. You post something that may potentially stir something deeper in someone, and less a few people see it. So it's interesting. So it's either that people are seeing it as they need to see it, um, and it's all okay. But it's just fascinating to me, and it really gives you a picture in terms of where we are in our society and the significance of algorithms, because we live in a time now of the fact that algorithms are incredibly significant as to what is being detected, what is being pointed out, what is being seen. Anyway, I think I have said enough. I want to remind you to check out The Business of Disease, the documentary that is now available to be viewed pay-per-view only on the website at this time. The official launch on all the VOD platforms and digital platforms through our distribution company is in February. That's when you can turn on your TV and find it on one of the VOD platforms. Excuse me, and tell everyone. And but in the meantime, you can get on thebusinessofdisease.com. You can also pre-order the DVD and get it for the holidays or give it as a gift. They're going to be mailed out on December 1st, the videos, but you can watch it on the site. Excuse me. And the book that goes with the film, Health, an Inside Job and Outside Business, the expanded version. You can also pre-order that, and those are going out on November 15th. So if you order now, you can get it. And also, those of you asking what new events are coming up, there is a retreat, the yearly retreat, but this one it's coming up August of next year. So you go on the website, my website, therealsoniabarrett.com, and the retreat information is there. For the film, you go to thebusinessofdisease.com, and all of that information is there. But I tell you, check out the film. We touch on a great many things, and the idea is to stir a different kind of thinking in our minds. And so as we stir a different kind of thinking, what happens? It starts to impact our reality, and we start to see potentially more of that kind of idea popping up all around us. So I think that's it. So once again, thebusinessofdisease.com and my regular website, therealsoniabarrett.com. Check out the film, thebusinessofdisease.com, and do share this video. All right, well, until next time, see you then.